Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships and a Patreon game as promised. This one being from Andy CX in the Harugumo. This is not great matchmaking on the face of it. He's the only destroyer on his side. There's equally one destroyer on the enemy team that he's just run into. There's one with radar as well, so that's fun. But there's also CVs in play. And generally speaking, if you are the only destroyer in a game with CVs and it's a domination game, heck, even if it's not a domination game, you tend to be focused hard. And it makes sense from the CV's point of view. You are the sneakiest ship, you can potentially do a lot of damage with torpedoes, or guns in the case of the Harugumo. And so, therefore, they're going to prioritise you. And especially in a domination game where being the sneakiest ship means you have the best chance of camping. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It's just really rubbish if you happen to be in the position Andy's in of being the sole destroyer. However, having said that, apparently the enemy CV didn't get that memo, because although Andy will have some interactions with the CV, it's not going to be nearly as many as you would think. Also, I have a cat on my desk now. Hello, Samuel. Are you going to meow into the microphone? Say hello to everybody. Did you see me talking into the computer and decided that you needed to join in as well? Apparently so. Anyway, we can figure the Gdansk's backed off at least enough to let Andy cap, but there goes the radar again. And at least it's a short duration radar, so... yeah, Andy actually kind of got away with firing his guns there because nobody else was in range to spot him because the smoke was blocking the Gdansk's point of view. However, here come the aeroplanes. And yeah, watching this for the first time, I was like, okay, this CV is surely going to be up Andy's ass the entire game. It's not like he has loads of smokes to use in a defensive fashion to block line of sight. But it's just not going to be the case at all. It really isn't. So although this CV player does spot Andy briefly, he's not going for Andy, and he doesn't try and drop fighters or anything. Not that that's that helpful these days. They only provide at best a couple of extra seconds of spotting, but yeah, it's just weird. Anyway, so we've jumped ahead maybe 30 seconds. The Gdansk had retreated a little bit towards the middle, gotten spotted and has been taken out, so that's one less thing for Andy to worry about, one less thing with the radar for Andy to worry about, although the enemy team does still have, I think, the Salem and Annapolis. Pretty sure the Annapolis has radar, so potentially those might be an issue later on. Anyway, back into the sea cap, and this game really is going to be extremely focused around the sea cap, at least from Andy's point of view. There has been some action going on in the north, but the enemy team take the A cap fairly early, and they're going to be forced away from it. You can actually see they're losing ships up there as well. They do have the mid cap though, and so although they do lag a little bit behind the enemy team in kills, the fact that they have that mid cap is going to make up for it. So this is going to be a fairly tight game score-wise, really all the way along. There will be times when one team gets ahead of the other, but it's never going to be a particularly big gap. So only one torpedo hit from that particular spread. He used his reload booster there as well, of course. But alas, the Alsace used some WASD hacks and only took one of them. Samuel, do not scratch at the monitor, please. Yes, I know there's things moving around on the monitor. Yes, I know you're watching the little bars go up and down as I'm talking, but please don't scratch them. He's helping! He's my production assistant, aren't you, Samuel? Yes, helping. That's what he's doing. Anyway, so, because Andy has been able to not use his spokes, it's very grammatically correct sentence construction there, for dodging the wrath of airplanes, he can now do this, which is what the Harugumo likes to do, is sit in its smoke and pew-pew at hapless battleships. He's even doing the smart thing, and you can tell he's a veteran of the Harugumo and the Kitakaze and ships of that ilk, Akizuki, maybe even some of the Americans are potentially considered quite good at pew-pews with their rate of fire, although they don't have the absurd penetration that the 100 mils do, the Japanese 100 mils for their size. But yeah, he's wiggling around in his smoke as to try and foil any counter-fire, not that there is any happening at the moment. So he's just switching around to what's spotted. Fortunately, there are other people spotting, it's not just him, because that can be an annoyance sometimes, especially if you're the only destroyer. You smoke up expecting to be able to do this, and it turns out you were the only person that was actually spotting any of the things. So yeah, that can be a bit of a pain. Samuel, come here, come here. Yes, you're lovely, you're very lovely, but please don't do that. So yeah, we do get a bit of a misstep though. It doesn't quite calculate it correctly in terms of backing out or going forwards again. But fortunately he's able to zip forward into the dying remains of his smoke cloud. So he's only briefly spotted. Nobody was pointing their guns this way, so yeah, he got away with it. But it does give the enemy team valuable information exactly as to where he is. I mean, okay, they knew the smoke cloud was there and firing at them, but that's not the same as then getting a trace on the minimap for everybody to see, as opposed to just the ships locally having an idea of where he is. More torpedoes away against that pair of battleships. We also have the potential to smoke up once again, which he might avail himself of very shortly. Completely unmolested by planes. The enemy CV knows he's here, but it's just, I don't know, choosing to try and farm damage, maybe, rather than actually do a useful thing for their team. That's possibly it. That maybe they've decided that trying to drop on a destroyer is too much of a pain, so they're going for battleships and large cruisers instead. Who knows? So another para-torpedo hit, and I don't know if those were against both ships or if it was 2 hits into the same ship. But either way, there were some flooding ribbons with that, so this is a prime opportunity to set some fires and potentially rack up even more damage. And he's already at 100k, which is pretty respectable. He also might get some more defense flags out of this, which helps with your XP. There was a while, I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but we're going back like 3 or 4 years, where what patch would it have been? I can't remember. They were trying to encourage people to cap and defend caps, and so they absolutely turbo boosted the amount of XP that you got for capture and defense flags to the point where it was a bit silly and was distorting the score screens. But it was very profitable in terms of XP to and rewards to play destroyers for that little patch or two. Samuel, I'm gonna pick you up and put you on the ground. Yes, yes, because you're being a naughty boy now. You are. You're being a naughty boy. The production assistant is being a little bit unhelpful, perhaps. Yes, Samuel. Yes, you. Complaining now that I've turfed him off the desk. All he was doing was pointing at the monitor and threatening to knock it over. It's not like that's bad or anything, is it, Samuel? You're just helping. So that's the battleships out the way, and that leaves the cruisers, one of which does have, I think, a radar, but he's staying out of range of it, and is also using these islands to keep line of sight broken. So yeah, even more defense flags, and these guys are low health, so he's got a chance of picking up some kills here as well. He's only got 1 kill so far. He's mostly been setting other people up for kills. I mean, he's got over 100k spotting damage as well already, so his teammates have also been putting in some work. It's not like Andy's been doing this alone, but he has absolutely been keeping in the face of the enemies in this cap and just not backing off, not letting them have it. I don't think he would have been able to do that nearly as successfully if the enemy CV had been making a point of prosecuting him instead of trying to farm damage elsewhere. But no, the enemy CV was, and Andy has been 100% taking advantage of that. What's the old adage of never interrupt enemies when they're making mistakes? Well, yeah, that's certainly what you could say Andy's been doing. So we skipped ahead about a minute here. There was not much happening. The enemy team completed capping B, and so although Andy's team does have, did have about 100 points lead, we've just had an exchange of cruisers, so yeah, okay. On the plus side, guess who Andy's just spotted? I don't know why the United States is there, but hey, that's a bonus for Andy. Unfortunately, he did get spotted there, and you would think at this point that the United States would be full-on panic. Oh my god, there's a destroyer. I should do something about that. The remaining enemy ships are doing something about that. They're both coming in this direction. Well, I say both. There's also the Napoli in the middle that's still behind an island. Yeah, you would think that the CV would be panicking, but no, the CV is still trying to hit other targets. They don't seem to be interested in loitering their planes, trying to keep this pesky destroyer spotted, who has no smokes left, in order for their teammates to shoot at them. And both the Mecklenburg and the Sejong are pretty big threats, both for the Mecklenburg's secondaries and the Sejong just having a really rapid rate of fire. Apparently this United States has no sense of self-preservation, though. It's just taken 4 torpedo hits and is about to take 1 more. And that's not enough to kill him. And Andy could potentially have just tried to keep him spotted at this point and bank on his teammates getting that killing blow. But I guess just that little bit of frustration at not killing, getting so close but not actually killing the United States, causes him to open fire. And although knocking out the CV is both incredibly useful in terms of both points and removing that threat for his remaining couple of allies, it's arguable that wasn't the best decision, but you can understand why he did that. So we're into the last minute now. There's a Conqueror and their own Eagle left versus these last two cruisers. The Mecklenburg did go down, and the Conqueror manages to get a final kill with like 10 seconds to go, whatever it was. That's enough to put them ahead on points for the timer hitting 0, and so therefore they won. But that easily could have been a loss. It was really, really tight until the end there. So, yeah, an absolutely sterling contribution from Andy there. Nearly 240k damage, nearly 3,000 base XP. That could have gone so much worse. I think a lot rode on the decisions that the enemy United States made. And so Andy was given much more free rein to be aggressive down in that sea cap than he otherwise might have been able to, and he absolutely took advantage of that. And it was really only at the end there when I think that frustration maybe seeped through a bit at not getting the kill with torpedoes that he arguably did a slightly silly thing perhaps, but anyway, there we go. It was still a very good win. So anyway, that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.